Good evening and welcome to this edition of DeFacto Review, a weekly roundup of the biggest stories shaping Mongolia. Here with us tonight is our commentator and economist, Jargal of DeFacto.
Good evening.
And my name is Dutko. We're live on Facebook at VTelevision, and we want to hear your thoughts, so send us your comments on Twitter with hashtag #Jargal_DeFacto. Coming up on the program. Beyond the President's vetoes. Protests against the Speaker of Parliament. Ethics of judges. So let's jump into our first topic. On November 15, the President vetoed against the 2019 state budget, and a week later, the Speaker of Parliament said there's a partial veto going on. So will this veto lead to significant amendments to the budget?
Not significant, but still some amendment is suggested by that. In particular, 500 billion tugriks was suggested to give to the Development Bank of Mongolia in order to make 3 complex factories for processing of animal husbandry products, the raw materials that is coming from the slaughtering animals. And this is kind of it was called the flexibility of that veto. So it means they will have amendments to not only the budget for next year, but for this year, as they need money or not. So they have agreed that, and this partial and complete and then partial, both. Complete veto is not accepted, but partial veto is accepted. Why? The explanation was like this: since we have 1.5 trillion tugrik from the higher price of coal export, 1/3 of it can be used in that way, as I just now described. And our Mongolian government forgets that in order to change, in order to be adopting this the change in the fluctuation of commodity prices, we should originally supposed to have the wealth fund, natural wealth fund or mineral wealth fund, where we can have all this change. Because this change of prices, we can accumulate all the money that can be used in different ways. So because politicians see their life for 4 years only, so they have decided to make amendments every year, every time in the budget. And according to the President's Office Chair, Mr. Inkbold, he said that it's a very flexible approach, and of course this flexibility raised 2 questions. First, yes, President has a right to veto any law, and that in this case was the budget law. But however, it was represented like this: the ships are live, the wolves are full. And that very, putting the question in that way, is raising an issue of President being a symbol of unity of a nation. I'm personally questioning who is a wolf and who is a sheep. So secondly, here the President of Mongolia is not opposition. He is vice versa. He is on the contrary, he is as I said, the symbol of unity. Second question comes, the office of President behaves like a Ministry of Industry, which has a responsibility to suggest to the budget to run new project of this size. So still it shows that many things are not yet clear in our governance, and what is clear is there is a diffusion of the differences in between three branches of power.
And so, in addition to the number of funds we have currently, there's a proposed addition of one more. So, what do you think of this additional fund?
Well, we could not, and we are not dealing well with these 28 existing funds, and now we have another one. There is no guarantee that it will go, this new one will not go in the way how the other funds, like the Small Medium Enterprise Support Fund, have been misused. It was misused. So we still need to open all the what happened with the rest of other funds. So we need to know that. Unfortunately, these funds were created, as we talked about, the price changes, many other conditions that made the budget consistency lost. So each minister had on fund to develop or to protect or to support certain projects he has. But unfortunately today all these funds are being misused, I understand. And it's also because all fund decisions, spending decisions was made by the minister himself, and which definitely creates uneven conditions, playing field for businesses, and destroys competitions, which resulted in losing more jobs. And the other thing is they propose to have this 500 billion Tugriks through Development Bank of Mongolia. But the previous credits given by this Development Bank of Mongolia are not yet completely transparent. We don't know the final result, the report of those credits. So as a result, people have lost a lot interest, or they trust in a value like democracy. And people don't believe even not in themselves, but also they believe that only strong some hand should come out and to decide all this, to solve all these problems.
And so during the discussion on the partial vetoes on fiscal issues, some cabinet members as well as the Minister of Finance were not present. So what do you make of this, their absence?
Well, it shows again how it's again the level of our quality of our governance. If the president of the country vetoes your law, particularly like such an important law like the draft of budget, they should be there, but they are not there, including the finance minister, is because they saw the veto is becoming kind of a bargaining, that adding another large project at the time when we need to cut all expenses. And that was originally what the president suggested when he had put the complete veto on the budget. He said it's too expensive budget to do much. It's about, he was saying 32% of GDP equivalent expenses of budget is too high, which is true, and yet they are suggesting more expenses on that. So that's why it shows the quality of our governance. On the other hand, these cabinet members, and including the finance minister, they had no also other time, as they have been now very much pushed for resignation of whole cabinet. So on the other side, the timing was not very good for them to come to this meeting. But what I noticed, what is everything behind is the level of management, the integrity of these two political parties, which really lost fully their integrity, and because they have been changing this our budgets, making amendments every year 2-3 times for one, and also misusing all our funds, the people who have they nominated to higher positions of the government. So these two political parties are to have all the responsibility for that, because they were running the country either in coalition or separately for all these 20 plus years, almost 30 years. So, but what worth to notice this current Prime Minister had promised to fight with all this wrongdoing with the funds, not only one, with all other funds. In fact, he said he had started investigation and he wants to go completely to the end to fight against Manang, which means the coalition of the two political parties wrongdoing. So, and that's why he was demanding certain people resign, including the speaker, and, which was supported by 40 members of 76 parliament members.
And so what you just mentioned about the 40 parliament members submitting a letter for requesting the resignation of the Speaker of the House is our second topic. So why are people requesting the resignation of the Speaker of the House and Speaker of the Parliament?
This is a very serious situation and questions. That's what the ordinary people are waiting now for, knowing exactly what had happened with our funds, money, which was just one of them misused in this way. And in all this misusing being kind of permitted or allowed or organized by the political party leaders. This small medium enterprises is a lot to do with now current ruling party, but the other funds will go, in case the Prime Minister go to the end, many other funds have been misused by the Democratic Party. So thanks to this whole fight, we will be learning more and more who are exactly a person who was using our funds and our money, stealing in a way. And this SME fund is just a tip of iceberg. The others will be under the surface, and one by one they should come out. At least that's what the people are waiting from the Prime Minister. Well, why all this is happening is because political party financing in Mongolia is secret. They don't disclose, because if they disclose, it will be illegal, as they have been receiving donation more than 10 million tugriks by our law, set by our law. And they maybe 10 billion tugriks they will be receiving. If they announce it, it will be illegal. So it made Mongolia into corruption deeper, and and the head of political party, in particular Mr. Inkbol, who is the speaker, who was until now recently the head of Mongolian People's Party, has responsibility for all this financing in a wrong way political party, and so that's why the 60 billion tugriks case, so-called 60 billion tugriks case, where the video was revealed. Video is revealed. On this video, they were talking among all leaders of the People's Party, among themselves, including the speaker, how to raise a fund by pre-selling the high-ranking government positions, minister, department level, agency level. They have been discussing about the rate of each positions, and they were estimating that about 60 billion tugriks they can raise from that sales, which is the conversation itself as a criminal. And later on, they said, oh, it was just made up. Somebody composed that speech, which was supported by our, can you imagine, by our anti-corruption agency. And but the Prime Minister now is saying that no, it was not fake, it is true, it was Mr. Inkbol who was inside, and his voice was there inside.
And so do you think appointment of Mr. Inkbol as Speaker of Parliament back after the 2016 elections was a bad idea?
Well, it was his choice. Why? Mr. Inkbol was in almost all highest position in the country for the last 20 years, including the mayor of Ulaanbaatar city, for which he had worked quite for a long time. And with whom we connect a lot, mismanagement of Ulaanbaatar city land. And he and his colleagues were selling our lands. By the way, they are selling until now. They are selling under the table Ulaanbaatar city, public property, public property. And now a good example is all these mountains in Zaiseng Mountains, Yarmak Mountains, the field of the mountains, they have been selling it, and they don't declare up to now who is really bought and how much they have paid. And we could have an auction for those lands. Then with these auctions, we can have so many low-cost apartments that we decrease this terrible smoke. So he will have one day have a responsibility for that. So he decided to be a president after the winning of the elections. So he had chosen the speaker position rather than prime minister position, as every time before the ruling party or winning party had chosen. Head of a ruling party is always prime minister, for at least our experiences for last almost 20 years. So because he had selected the speaker positions, it was easier to run for presidential elections from that position, quitting that position and running rather than quitting the prime ministership. It will take a longer time and a lot of things he had to report. So he had chosen that path, but he had not succeeded. He had lost election to Mr. Baktulga, who is now the president, on one side. On the other side, the speaker of the Mongolian parliament is not just the kind of guy sitting there coordinating. No, he is the person who decides which law will be discussed as a priority. And if he likes, many laws can be postponed, delayed, or at least the priority will go down. One. Secondly, he's the guy the person who is giving microphone on or on off. He even can cut the microphone from the people he finds not necessary. That's a very strange practice still there. So it is not just ordinary positions. So in order to take out of him from his position, it's a very big power. Then the coalition of the 40 parliament members will put the person who will not behave like him, and thus they will, for example, will discuss an issue of anti-corruption agency nomination issue, which is head nomination issue still in a big debate in the country, and this person was nominated by the previous president and supported by the Mr. Inkpol fractions. So that's what's happening. And also another thing is, which is a little bit of big concern for me, and for many people I think, is on November 22, when 40 parliament members refused to come to the sessions until he resigns. And he's made the following remark. He said, by not coming to the sessions of Mongolian parliament, these people try to take over the political, to take state power in illegal way. That's the statement he made. It's a very serious statement. But the nuances there is that, are they trying to take the state power in illegal way? He put it like as a questions. But however, many other parliament members started to talk about that since that day, for the last 4 or 5 days. And it's very dangerous statement, as if it is the case, they can use military or security power against anybody who is trying to illegally take over the state power, you see. So that's the one concern. The other thing is, Prime Minister said last Sunday, there was some 500 politicians, people, including military, including judiciary, including police officers, high-ranking officers, were in the Palace of Independence, which is the headquarters of Mongolian People's Party. They have been trying to organize a demonstration. And Prime Minister said he had stopped with that. And here, one thing we have to take very serious attention about these people who has a military power.
And so are these military people and high-ranking officials, are they allowed to organize a demonstration such as so?
They are not. Legally, they don't have a right even to participate in political actions. They should do just to everything that is to their own judgment to have the order in the country. But not to come to this headquarters of even the ruling party, political party. And this is being, it shows it's been, they've been more political. I think it is enough reason to fire them from the positions when the normal political power comes to the country, to their power. And that's what we're expecting. And why the security, the military and police heads are being politicized. That's the people are against that. And speaking about this, the name of the Independent Palace, that is a name of ruling party's headquarters, and somehow they have been taking money from the budget and they made on headquarters for the one political party. They did not ask us, it was not inside of the budget. So, and they call it somehow independent. I don't know from whom they want to be independent. Probably from the people or from the voters, so that's the concern.
And so do you think our government will become more stable just by replacing one person as the Prime Minister has suggested?
Not at all. It will, if this person is changed, it will be more easier to have access to other wrongdoings. And behind that, so many wrongdoings, including different price stabilization programs, under which many people have taken loan, very discounted loan, or with either discounted or no interest loan, and that list is not coming out. They keep it a secret, and the many companies who were receiving those money are now, of course, supporting everybody who will not disclose this list. The other thing is mismanagement of Chinggis Khan and other bonds, where millions of dollars have been given to politically affiliated companies. So all these things we will go beyond. The country should go beyond. I said the state should go beyond. And our mismanagement over our land. And there are many. The politicians have their own companies, banks, and they have media, and they are opposing very strongly nowadays not to lose their power, so that they don't reveal the wrongdoings.
And so moving on to our third topic, a survey on the ethics and discipline of judges was published in 2017 in collaboration with the Asia Foundation and the Global Affairs Canada. So according to the survey, are our judges fair? Is the ethics and discipline of our judges appropriate?
There's very interesting survey. There is a ethics committee of judges which is discussing the wrongdoings, claims by ordinary people about the judges. They discuss it, and they have interesting statistics that say about 200 claims are coming per year, and only 30 of them are being discussed. The rest is not discussed, disregarding the cases. 30 of them is regarded, but out of this 30, 25 or so just gives punishment, so-called punishment. It's called disciplinary punishment, which is not announcing publicly, just warning him. So I don't think it is itself a substantial, influential measures. But the good thing is we have at least this ethics committee, which is discussing the issue. One. Second, They are revealing the cases where the claims come from and why these claims come from. Many things. But you said that our judicial system is if our judicial system is fair. I don't think so. The way corruption goes up, the way people, government officials, ministers, deputies are misusing those funds, which is now one of the 28, shows that our justice system is not working at all. So it is our matter. It's our urgency to have them working. For that, the very interesting thing, this statement, personal statement of your income and property, report of all public officers go above certain level of positions go to the anti-corruption agency. But for judges, it goes to the Supreme Court Council. They don't disclose back the incomes of the judges, and we know that partially, including even the head of the Supreme Court himself, is a very wealthy person. And we cannot demand them to explaining why and how they got this money, just sitting at the court, being a judge. So I think a lot claims to be there. There are so many interesting claims from this report we should read, including miswriting all this punishment comes from the court decisions. They are aiding some other punishments. So this sort of complaints there were. There's a very good list of all kind of complaints which show where the weaknesses of our judicial system.
And so do you think our courts will be able to fairly process the case of the SMEs?
I'm not sure if this current court can do that, but I know one thing. Without solving this issue, we cannot go ahead. The justice will not exist. The justice will not win in this country, and people don't want that. We want to see the justice, and that's the current mood. And depending on what's happening in the next 4 days in the country, we will see which one is prevailing.
Well, thank you. And so this concludes our program for this evening. Please join us next week at the same time for another weekly roundup of the biggest stories shaping Mongolia. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.